So this is the making of my Buffalo Plaid soap, which was I first saw it by Amy Batista at Elysian Acres. She made a beautiful Buffalo Plaid and was kind enough to give me the tips on how she did it, and this is my version of that. So I'm gonna start by, you can see I've got all of my red and black strips that were made from a separate loaf. And I made these just by pouring black and then red batter into the same slab mold that I'm going to use to make the actual soaps. And so here you can see I'm just cutting it into sections that are the right size. I've got my wire cutter set to 3/4 inch, and then I'm just planing them a little bit on my planer to make sure that there's not like extra batter left over kind of where the red and the black touched each other, because I wanted to be able to use as many of these as I possibly could. So these are what's going to go into the bottom of my mold to make my red and black stripes in the plaid. So you can see here I'm using little end cuts to space out. And I want to make sure that I'm getting these equally spaced because that's going to drive the pattern. So I'm just kind of fiddling around with them, and then when I've got them where I want them to be, I'm going to remove the little guides. And now we're ready to start. I did melt down my oils kind of in one batch and made my lye solution ahead of time so that I was ready to get started. And here I've got my mold. This mold is a double width tall skinny from Workshop Heritage, and here you can see I'm just splitting my oils into 4 equal parts and then my lye into 4 equal parts as well. I want to make sure that I have my batches broken up so that I can not have them accelerate or get ready too fast. I want to be able to just mix them up in sections as I need them. Just kind of getting everything organized and out of the way and getting ready for the next steps. So I added my fragrance in equal parts. The fragrance that I'm using is one that doesn't accelerate. It's oud wood from Nurture. It behaves really well, so I have no problem adding that to my batter ahead of time. And here I'm mixing my first layer. So I've already set my little pieces in the mold, and I measured how far apart they needed to be so that they were evenly spaced. And then I'm just filling in the gaps with the soap batter. Using my spatula here to kind of make sure that it's pushed in nice and flat. I don't want there to be any air bubbles. And as it kind of sets up, I'm taking the other pieces, so the alternated color, and I'm laying them down on top of the gaps. So they're being laid down on top of the spaces that had the soap batter in them before, and I'm just kind of using my best judgment to get them flat and in the right spot and lined up, and trying to make sure that there's no air bubbles underneath. As you can see here, my batter has kind of thickened up on me. I realized in a moment that I should probably mix half as much each time because that was enough for 2 layers. So actually in a moment here you'll see me split my batch. But right now I'm just kind of trying to make sure that there's no air bubbles and like patting down this thicker batter, and then I start laying my next layer, which is black again, alternating, and again I'm laying these black ones now on top of the spaces that were in between the other red ones, so over the spots that had just batter in it before. And here's where I decide that I should split these batches up even more, so now I'm just dividing them half and half again and pouring in half my lye. And that should be enough just to fill this one little layer instead of having to go through and have extra left over. So I'm actually letting it sit for like 4 or 5 minutes in between here so that it firms up a little bit so that I'm able to scrape it out. I know it looks like it's kind of instant, but the joys of time lapse. So yeah, letting it sit. And then here I'm kind of trying a new tactic of like maybe if I put some batter on the bottom of the strips, I'll have a better chance of not getting any air bubbles. That was kind of my big worry with this technique, is that there would be gaps in between. But I got pretty lucky in the final cut you'll see at the end, and there really wasn't much as far as gaps go. So again, pouring the next layer, letting it set up, and then scraping it off into the cup so we have extra. This leftover is actually getting put into a mold off camera. I use these to make samples of fragrances, so they get poured into like a little square mold, and then I cut them into little strips, and I end up using those as free samples in my orders. And so yeah, from here on out, I'm gonna let you guys relax to some joyful music and watch the rest of this at high speed. I'll come back at the end to talk about how I decorate the tops, but in the meantime, enjoy! Now that we're done with the main pour, I'd actually planned to have some green left over. I was going to leave some batter over that wasn't colored and turn it green so that I could decorate the top in this green grass color, but I forgot to do that. I realized when I got to this point that I had turned everything red, so I added a bunch of green mica anyway just to kind of see what would happen, and I ended up with this kind of brownish green color. The batter itself looked kind of icky, but once it was turned into soap, once it had finished saponification, it was actually a pretty nice kind of earthy green-brown color that worked pretty well. So I've decorated the top here with just some gold mica suspended in oil and a quick little swirl. And then as you'll see in a moment, I have these adorable little soap dough poinsettias that were made by Jennifer Soap. She has a website where you can purchase them. And she sent me a box of them, and I used them on this soap and probably on a few others throughout the season as well. But they look great, they came fantastic, and they cut really easily. I think they really added something nice to the final bars. I hope you guys enjoy the cut, and thanks for watching. If you like these videos and want to see more, please give that like and subscribe button a quick smash for me. It really helps out, get some visibility to my soaps. And yeah, thank you so much for watching.